Full house today. Again. How's it going, folks? All right. Let's take a look at the chat. Yeah, just some updates too. I don't know, in case anyone missed it. We launched the Gemini Wallets today, which I know has been kind of a long-awaited feature, especially for folks in New York, and we're super excited about it. Gemini's also got their earn program within their offering that lets you earn I think it's 3.49% BAT or percent interest on your BAT APY. And then they've also got BAT payments through the Gemini app too, so you can go to Baskin Robbins or a bunch of other retailers and spend BAT on real life stuff in the real world. So it's super exciting. And I know there's been a lot of anticipation for having another partner in there, so we're pretty excited about that. Yeah, so okay, let's jump right into questions. Let's see here. Do we have any hands raised, or are we doing all of them from the chat today? I don't care either way. Someone asked, okay, Luke does adjusted beyond belief because of that. Does Brave hold a 1-to-1 ratio of BAT in their reserves to account for every BAT in Brave wallets? If everyone withdrew at the same time, do they have enough, or is it a run on margin? I'm assuming, are you assuming we're talking about advertising BAT in the wallet or self-funded or not? Maybe someone could pop in the chat with a answer to that. If we're talking about all BAT held in well, no, I mean if it self-funds their wallet, we don't account for self-funded BAT in people's wallets. That wouldn't make sense. So all BAT held in Brave wallets isn't accounted for 1-to-1.
I think they're talking about advertising BAT. There's been a lot of...
They just replied in the chat, all BAT held in Brave wallets.
Well, could you...
if it's advertising BAT, I can give you an answer for advertising BAT. With advertising BAT, there are two buckets of two user states, right? In rewards, you've got verified users that are gone through the with Uphold or now Gemini the wallet verification process, so they get BAT directly deposited to them as it comes in and is settled. And then there's virtual BAT, which anonymous users in the anonymous state can collect. We have obligations. We cover obligations on both of those during the month. I'm not sure what is the real aim of the question. I think I would ask, maybe if someone wants to clear that. Is it held at a 1-to-1 reserve ratio? What are you implying? Just get to brass tacks. What is the claim? The thing that you're trying to get an answer for, the bigger question. Okay.
I think I know what he's thinking, which is, and this goes to the confusion some people have with a browser wallet and then the hashed virtual BAT you've accumulated for ads that you have not registered with Gemini or Uphold. And so he's saying that's quote unquote in my wallet, even though it is not truly in the browser wallet or registered with an exchange. And he's saying, if everybody cashed that out at once, could you pay it? I think that's
yes, we could pay it. I think I answered that the last call too.
I think you did.
And it's worth noting, this is not just a one-time thing. We have, advertisers are buying campaigns every month, right? This is a billing cycle is involved and all that stuff. I don't know. I hope that answers the question. Happy to answer any follow-ups related to that. I want to make sure people are getting answers to questions that they ask. So, and if there's a broader thing here, let's just talk through it. That's what this whole point of this call is. So, what other questions have we got here? Parker or PM? Who's PM? Pooh McDoom. Okay. That's a hell of a name. Pooh McDoom can speak. If Pooh McDoom has a question. Puma Doom might be muted. Who else has questions? We can let Puma Doom jump in when Puma. Yeah. Hey, how's it going?
Oh, thanks. Also, thank you, Luke, for holding these now weekly.
Oh yeah, no, they're enjoyable.
Yeah, they're great. I just had a question. I was wondering if you could kind of go and give us a feel of the difference between a company that has stock, right, and a company that really has their large reserves and interest in a cryptocurrency, and how, you know, kind of the internal thinking differentiates between one thinking about their stock price and one thinking about the crypto that they're using for their platform, and how they care about the price, and kind of if you can mirror the two, or, you know.
Yeah, sure. No, I mean, they're both relative to this case, because Brave is a company that has stock like any other, you know, corporation, and we have BAT, which is the utility token, right? Like, and you know, the BAT fact covers this, the FAQ on the site too, so I can just parrot what's there. But you know, but BAT's a utility token, right? Like, you're not buying a share of stock where you have voting rights or privileges that come with purchasing a stock. The BAT is not a security; it is a utility token. It is people are buying BAT; they're using it in the platform, and yeah, that's, you know, official response as far as like token goes. The value of BAT's important, you know, especially as we saw back in, what was it, March, April, where it got to like $1.60-ish or something like that. Like, publishers liked it. You know, they can get one tip that can cover the cost of a, you know, subscription promotion or something like that. So I think, you know, the value of BAT's important to the project. I mean, you know, there's a reason why we dedicate resources into BAT and seeing BAT grow, seeing the ecosystem grow. And the value of Brave is stock is important, and they both are important together. So I think that, you know, it's all value, and I think that it's all kind of like a mix of, you know, making sure that the company health is good and that the community and the ecosystem health is good. And sometimes that's kind of a tricky thing. You know, this is software development, and things, you know, sometimes, you know, things rarely execute on time, like it's a known thing, but we iterate and put it out there. I don't know, is there a follow-up to that? Happy to touch a follow-up to that if there is. If you guys want me to get more specific.
No, not really. It's just, you know, it's kind of this cryptosphere thinking that we're kind of stepping into, and a lot of companies are dealing with. I'm guessing they've got their utility token, or their, you know, something that they can stake or delegate, or, you know, help their own ecosystem, but they've also got their kind of public stock price. And it's just an interesting topic, because, you know, more and more companies are probably going to be popping up in the mainstream that have to deal with the symbiosis of the two.
It's super interesting because, you know, how the values relate to one another too. And especially now, like, as more and more larger, like Fortune 500 companies are putting Bitcoin on their balance sheet and experimenting with crypto, you know, like everyone saw Visa probably had the most clever marketing campaign of the year, where they bought the NFT, what was it, last week or something like that, and got a lot of attention. You know, I think these things will have interesting, you know, side effects. I think, you know, when as companies, especially as companies that might have tokens, you see them go through acquisitions, things like that, you know, how that affects the token price, right? Like, and people have theories for these things, and I'm not sure if there's been a really clear case of this being fully executed yet, but yeah, it's an interesting time. I think, especially now though, like, and you mentioned validating and staking and things like that. Like, you know, when we were talking to partners a while ago, you know, tokens would be a kind of a tool in negotiations to kind of explore with the partnerships and the development side of like the business. And now it's really interesting too, as more like, you know, staking validators and things like that, like show up, and people have, like, you know, staking tokens and things like that they can put into the deals. It's definitely like continuing to grow, and that's just like with everything else with that's manifesting through this run. It's kind of showing how much work went into everything during the last bear run, because these things don't advance this way, you know, overnight. It takes building and development and getting these things out there. And they're still like, I mean, the cum rockets of the world, right? Like the moonshot kind of tokens that just blow up, and do what they do. But also, I mean, look at what's happened with governance protocols and DeFi and, these areas and interesting things that are happening within, governance proposals going on in these areas too, and how that affects things. Like there's the whole DeFi fund situation, but then also, there was another proposal that went through. I'm trying to remember the name of it off the top of my head, but it got rejected, where like, people are trying to kind of almost fund startup efforts or initiatives through governance token pools, which is super interesting. Yeah, so I think we'll see more of that and kind of the pros and cons of that. And I think also some of kind of like the naivete of the beginning with crypto meets the rubber of the road, like especially when people start getting into talking about like lobbying and politics, right? Like politics is kind of the art of compromise. And so you really want to make sure like, okay, what are we willing to compromise, right? Like if we're going to go in and start talking to people that don't really know much about crypto, but are in a position where they can put laws on the books that, like with this infrastructure bill, may not necessarily make a lot of sense in a lot of cases. So anyways, it's just a super interesting time. Like, I hope that helps answer the question. I know it's kind of broad answer, but yeah.
Thanks.
Anybody? Yeah. All right. Any other questions people want to jump in?
Luke?
Yeah.
Oh, how are you doing? Thanks for doing the call. So would you see Brave software doing an IPO, or what type of metrics would need to be hit, or is that sort of something that can be discussed even?
You're kind of breaking up a little bit. I heard, can you see Brave do an ICO, I think? Sorry, can you?
Sorry, an IPO. Brave software do an IPO.
Oh, IPO. Got it. Sorry. Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, Brendan's talked about this. There's always potential for something like that. Like, it's you can get a magic 8-ball out here and do this. I mean, obviously things change when you do that. I mean, in my own personal life, like my wife was at a startup that kind of went through from startup to IPO, then went back to being private. Like there are definitely trade-offs. But I think that, it's certainly a route that the company could go in. But, is that the route we go in? I don't know. Like time will tell, that type of thing. I see Lictum Lobes asked, is there any plan to add staking, governance, advertiser perks, additional utility to BAT that you see other projects doing? Yeah, I think that there are a set of programs we're kind of working on right now. Some of them are related to advertising, some of them related to, like rewards with swaps and discounts, things like that. Like I said on the last call, there's a ton of work going on, and I've been trying to kind of post these updates more regularly too. The summer kind of things tapers, people vacation, whatever, but like been doing these wallet roundup tweets, and we'll start doing them from the official BAT account too more frequently. But ton of work going into the wallet. I think somebody even asked, I think on the last call, like what's the killer app, right? Like the more that the rubber meets the road with this stuff, it's definitely like the wallet's looking like that could be the thing, like if you've got this thing that's yours and, has access to all of these different, on-ramps to DeFi, NFTs, but then regular transactions. And we're at an interesting time where you've got like we did this partnership with Gemini today, right? Like they have, I think I mentioned this in the last call too. They have, their rewards card or whatever, where you can get 3% back in crypto on regular purchases. You've got companies doing those types of things, which are great for getting mainstream adoption. I think and then you've got the hardcore stuff where you've got, okay, like multi-chain swaps and doing different, wrapping tokens on different blockchains and things like that. And we want to cater across the spectrum, right? So some of these things might be things that we do on our own. Some of them might be things that we partner with folks that are really good at doing these things, just to make sure that we're putting the best thing possible in there, as long as it passes, our checks, et cetera. But it's kind of the wallet's really kind of a cool bridge between all of this and a way for us to surface things like education, you know, and other info. You know, other sites do this too, like CoinMarketCap, et cetera, where they kind of build in these education wikis and stuff like that. Like you could see us adding in educational info and areas like, you know, to get normies using crypto, and even if it's with the custodial partners, get them familiar, right? Like, or even if it's with a credit card that gives you crypto, like you're going to go buy groceries, just you could be earning crypto, whether that's BAT, hopefully, or other tokens, you know, cool. All right.
Luke,
Yeah.
Luke, so I would speculate maybe like creators who maybe receive BAT would receive what, you know, kind of cashed out the fiat quite quickly. I could be wrong now, but will you be sort of maybe encouraging them or educating them on other ways they could use their basic attention?
Oh yeah,
token?
absolutely, absolutely, and you're on the money, right? Like I think one of those things where, like when we were starting the creators flow, one of the things it was a different time then too. Like to go back in a machine to, you know, 2017, where Uphold may be the only exchange or quasi exchange that accepts BAT, right? Like that's how unknown these things are to the broader world, right? Like, so we set up a flow that allowed for a publisher to earn BAT and then, you know, take it to fiat if they wanted to. I think, you know, where we're at now is a much different ecosystem. It's a much different story. I think that, you know, looking at things like what we did with Gemini today, Gemini has Gemini Earn in the US. Creators could begin to put their BAT into Earn and earn, you know, 3.49%, or put it into Compound, or put it in another area. And I think part of this new wallet, you know, a lot of focus is on users, but again, you know, creators are using the browser, right? Like if we provide hookups for them in this wallet to link to these different partners with different utility cases for them to put BAT into, there's another angle. The third angle that I'm pretty excited about, you know, and that we've been going out and getting proof points around is this idea of basically like, look, you're a growing creator. You have been earning BAT from our users. What we should do, and what we've been putting points on the board doing, and we're actually doing this with Brave News right now too. If you see, like, we put new ad units in there. There's a promoted content feed, and there's a bunch of Bankless stuff in there. So that's part of what we've been doing with Bankless on one of these case studies, and other ones were with Scott Cunningham and a few others, kind of crypto creators. But basically, like trying to make a standing case that, hey, we can deliver significant value to you with growth through Brave ads, right? And, you know, being that Brave ads are denominated in BAT and we accept BAT for that, there's a natural kind of hook for a program for us to take, hey, you've been earning X, Y, or Z amount of BAT, put it into ads and help grow your audience with Brave. Because when we started doing these things, we noticed that not only did, like, you know, we were able to take Scott Cunningham, he had like 3,000 subscribers up to 16.6 thousand within, you know, 6 weeks, right? Like huge amount of growth. Not only were we able to grow the BAT that people were tipping him because they had more users that were subscribing to his service in Brave, his RPMs outside of Brave went up because his audience grew bigger out, you know, as far as YouTube was concerned. Those are more subscribers, eyeballs to advertise to. So his revenue from YouTube ads also went up. So there's a really compelling case between what you got with like options to kind of stake or lend BAT and then earn interest, and also with the ad platform, you have this utility channel where we could even, you know, offer creators a deal on the advertising, right? Like it's kind of a virtuous cycle within the larger virtuous cycle of the ecosystem. And so those are areas that we're all moving into, and it kind of ties in with, you know, self-serve. I saw there were some questions in there. Like I said in the last call, the next, you know, 2 months or so, we will be putting out regional releases for self-serve program where advertisers can sign up. We can get them in and get them running self-serve in different countries. You know, the main problem with opening self-serve in the US right now is that we literally are tapped on inventory. Like our sales team is selling so much Brave ads inventory in the US that if we were to sell that, you know, it would cause all sorts of issues in the U.S. Plus, also, we want to make sure that, you know, self-serve is you know, polished and ready to go in the U.S. So what we're planning on doing, and I think I covered this in the last call, but I'll cover it here because I see a lot of posts about self-serve, and it's not a small thing. And yeah, I see a lot of criticism too, which is fair in some respects. And I don't know. I feel like we've been pretty open with giving updates about this, but I'll be more open about it. Like, people expect 24/7 uptime with self-serve. They expect to be able to launch something whenever they want. There are risks involved with that you want to make sure you have eyeballs to check the ads that are running and make sure that they're not running anything hostile, make sure that they're running ads that are acceptable to run in the ecosystem, because we have requirements around that. We want to make sure that we have enough people to run through all those processes and procedures, right? And my team, I've doubled the operations team in the past 3 months, and then we've also, like I mentioned in June, we hired somebody who's working on self-serve, who's been knocking out issues to get that polished and ready to go. And so that's kind of the plan. So happy to kind of address follow-up questions about that, but I don't know if that's that much of an update from the last call, but there's a lot of work going into these things, and it's a knocking it out one day at a time kind of thing. So hope that helps. There's a good question. Okay, sorry, I know these are kind of out of order, but there was a good question from Michael Lewandowski. How localized can Brave ads get? For example, if I were a local pawn shop, is it possible to make ads that only run within 5 miles of my shop? So it's a great question, right? Like, and it's even more like important now that we have search, right? Right now we can, in the US, we rolled out Brave ads. It was available in 5 countries, right? And it's country level targeting. In the US, we rolled out state level targeting toward the end of last year. So it gives us a lot of flexibility because, for example, in, I think it was February, March, we rolled out the option to run ads for CBD, right? Which has a huge amount of state level restrictions. Some states actually still, the federal government has basically, removed it from the drug list for hemp, right? At the federal level. But on the state level, you have some state governments that are still very, very much treat hemp as a criminal product that you cannot advertise. And so state level targeting allows us to kind of, bring on more types of creatives, more types of advertisers and buyers into the system. Getting more local than that, so to answer the question, 5 miles of the shop, that's something we eventually will be able to do. I think it's a matter of 2 things. One, with Brave ads, the users are expecting to have some level of anonymity, way better than what's out there. And also, you want to make sure that you're not isolating your user base too much. So we have to make sure that, if we do it within 5 miles of that shop, that we have enough users in that area to, deliver on our anonymity requirements. I think that's the one piece. The other piece too is around giving that local buyer, a successful campaign, right? If we don't have enough users in that area, then they're not going to see as much business and it's not going to be as successful. So it's kind of a trade-off, right? But these are temporary problems that go away as we scale. When we get to the 100 million user range, it's a whole different ballgame with regard to all these problems. These inventory issues are gone. You've got almost endless supply of people to advertise to. So that's why, one of the reasons why, it sounds like a broken record, but scaling Brave is super important, and new products and features and things that kind of break outside of the browser even are important to introduce, because it kind of gets us out to more and more people in more different ways and gives us more opportunities to advertise and bring Brave ads outside of the browser even. So yeah, hope that helps answer the question. But yeah, there are plans. We want to make this competitive with Google Ads, and Google Ads can do really cool local things. I think the search team is doing some really interesting work in improving local results. And, this is stuff that, I don't know if folks here were using the search when we first did early beta runs on it, but I use it as a daily driver. The experience now compared to what it was even just a few months ago, they're taking all that feedback and just grinding away at those issues, and it's getting better and better and better. At least that's what I hope. You guys tell me, right? Is a search, if you think search isn't getting better, tell us, give us feedback, right? Because it's super important here, because, we have, and it's an opportunity, you got a really attentive team that wants feedback and wants to engage on these things. And I think, it's just a matter of time before BAT's introduced to search. I know these are there are the hardcore token holder side of this, or speculative side of this really wants, pumping every day different things. Like we're not going to do that every day. Like that shouldn't be news to anybody here either, right? Like this is a long-term project. We are not going to do what other projects do to do pumps. That doesn't mean we don't care about the value of BAT. It means that we care about building the value of BAT, building stuff that people use in the real world, and not just hyping on things and going through those cycles. Like it feels like this is deja vu a lot, because we dealt with a lot of this back in 2017, 2018. And I mean, I think what was it, the Brave Tan Waifu posted a while back, out of the 2017 projects, I think there were a handful that were still in top 100. Brave's one of those. I think 13 or so that are still there. And as the wallet gets out, as these things get out, more people, more BAT in the hands of more people, that's how these things grow. The right partnerships with companies that are trying to connect to more and more people. Like that's what we're doing here. We're not talking about doing some governance thing on a protocol somewhere. We're not talking about some order book or whatever. We're talking about the fundamentals of the internet. We're talking about it at a time when you have people, creators, users that are waking up to what their value actually is, and how the old web really exploited that value, and now have tools that they can start using to take back that value and to create things on their own. And that's why every one of these crypto projects is important. Every one of them that you hear about that has actual value and is delivering actual things to this world are important, because these are the tools that give creators things that they can use within Brave. We're that middle layer. Other browsers can try to do it, but this is what we're doing every day. And so, I know these answers don't please everybody. They're not going to. I'll be lucky if 20% of you like me by the time this conversation is over. I'm cool with that. You guys will show up next week. If you don't, cool, whatever. I'm not going to take an endless pounding like the project doesn't care because we're not doing that little thing you don't want, that you think we should be doing. That doesn't really fare well anywhere. We are open to feedback, but reducing what we're doing to nothing in some respects and making claims that we don't care, it's not really acceptable. For one, these calls are weekly now, and two, everybody on this team cares. I can tell you, we don't work around the clock because we don't care. And so I'll leave that one at that. I know I kind of went on a rant there, but feel like there's been a lot of discussion outside of this call about these things, and I just wanted to kind of clarify a lot of that. All right, who else has a question here? I'll scan the chat too. Let's see here. If anyone wants to ask a question, though, feel free to chime in while I'm taking a look here. Batter has, besides self-serve campaigns, the scroll just took me out of it. Are there any other, I think what was it? Besides self-serve campaigns. Oh, go ahead, Parker.
I was just curious. I was reading through the white paper, and the long-term hope for BAT, for it to form, a stable economy, is for long-term stability. I assume driven by the fact that BAT has more, or Brave has more users than pretty much every crypto project, and so BAT as a utility token or a currency or however you want to call it, it has a usually much higher velocity than most cryptocurrencies, just because it's used a lot more than most cryptocurrencies. So I was curious if there had been any thoughts or projections or any sort of analysis on how user numbers, monthly and daily average user counts, how those affected velocity or volatility of the token, or if there had been any thought into that. I know it's in the white paper, some formulas, but if I was curious if there had been any particular projections on the relationship between user counts and volatility.
Well, I know that it's a good question, and I know that Scott Laughlin from our team actually wrote a paper about token velocity in response to some feedback that we got. It's on the website. I think it is on the FAQ page right below the link to the white paper. That's worth taking a look at. I'd say, like, as far as the scale question goes and the velocity of BAT, right? Like, one bat's fractional, right? Like there's a capped supply, a maximum supply. We're not going to issue more of it. So, there's that factor. The other thing around this too is that it's almost like, it's not necessarily like looking at it as more users than any crypto out there. It's almost more along the lines of, as Brave scales to be a browser audience at scale, right? Which has a huge amount of users. Even smaller mainstream browsers have, that aren't Chrome or Edge or others have massive numbers, right? So if we keep growing as a browser grows with the value we can bring to our users through crypto, through, the ads, through wallet, etc., like, that's higher velocity. I would take a look at that paper that Scott wrote too, because it's pretty good. And I'd be happy to kind of follow up on the next call if there are follow-up questions to that you guys want to bring, or if you guys want to ask them elsewhere too. Happy to follow up there too.
Yeah, I had gone through both those paper days.
Okay, cool. Just want to make sure you saw it.
Yeah, they just require a few, like, knowledge about how many people are withholding that versus how many are circulating it through the economy, which is not as much information as I have to be able to calculate.
Let me do this, Parker. Let me run it by Scott too, and then come back to you guys next week with the call, with a follow-up from Scott, or maybe I can even convince Scott to join us on the next call. So we can see how that goes.
That'd be wonderful.
Yeah, because I can get in his head and kind of see where his head was at when he was writing that too. I don't want to put words in his mouth necessarily. I have my own views on it too, but Scott's the authority on velocity in the org, and he's going to give you a way more informed answer than what I'm going to be able to do. So hope that helps.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Luke, sorry,
Yes.
maybe I'm interrupting the.
You're not interrupting. Every interruption saves me from scroll death and awkward silences. So please interrupt often.
We don't want that. Well, oh yes. So wasn't there a closed beta of self-serve that maybe some advertisers were using? And I just was wondering, did you have any feedback from those advertisers and their experience?
Yeah, there is. There's a company called Buy Sell Ads that we partnered with the launch of Brave Ads back in January to April. They've been running a beta in self-serve, which is one of the reasons why, and they've been running it with us for like a year and a half, and they've been running it in the US too, because they've been able to help us kind of get additional brands in, right? It's also part of why it's taking a while to get it out there, because we've been discovering bugs, issues, etc. And also just kind of like, as a partner, this is what their regular inflow is to us, right? Like, now imagine the randomness that comes with having it for everybody to be able to access, right? So we've gotten a lot of good findings from that have kind of helped us to kind of drive these things in the direction that we're driving them in, which can lead and has led to it taking a while longer, because you want to make sure that you don't roll out there with with an empty weapon, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know any better way to say it, but like, you want to make sure that like when you go out there with something like this, at the scale that the US could bring, with the interest that this could bring. I mean, like, the thing that's interesting about Brave Ads is that, Google, all these companies, the IAB, everybody that's been working in the old world is still debating about how they're going to do things in the new world. And we are shipping new features and we are delivering ads in the new world, right? Like, when we've been doing things like this, it's been like kind of not historical, but kind of though, right? Like, these have been major milestones as far as like, business and privacy are concerned, et cetera. Like, we want to make sure too that we're not like running afoul of that or putting users at risk. So even with this, the managed service approach that we have, there are things that we get from advertisers that we flag and have to run. There are some things that, users point out to us that have gotten past it where we thought, hey, might not be that big of a deal. Turns out to be a bigger deal than we thought. Like these things are surprising sometimes. But, we've got policies in place, both on the legal side, with like new advertising verticals, et cetera, but also with this partnership we have with Buy Sell Ads, which is a great partner too. Like they were a rare partner where they actually spent most of their time doing this contextual advertising that wasn't behaviorally driven. So they didn't need to have a lot of the things that, traditional advertisers require. And that's one of the toughest things about working with our system from an outside advertiser, because we don't let you run third-party tracking or anything like that violates privacy, requirements on Brave's side. So, they were a pretty ideal partner to start working with this, and we got in a flow with them where we kind of treated their sales team basically as individual advertisers, where they would run campaigns and we got approval flows going, all of that stuff. But all that stuff also, inspired and gave us insight into how we should be approaching this at a larger scale. And then the other thing I'd remind people here of is that, like, putting in a broader context too. I mean, like, the company, when COVID hit, last year, we basically kind of put hiring on a freeze for a while. And, that impacted being able to expand teams and do other things. We still got learnings during that phase. And I'm not trying to make excuses at all. I'm just trying to bring the realities to the table, right? Like, the fact of the matter is, once that freeze was over, we started hiring rapidly. Like I said earlier, my teams on the operations side doubled in size, and we're preparing to get these things moving. But, we don't want to just go out there half-cocked and have it just suck. Like, that would not be good for anybody, right? Like, I wouldn't be good for token holders. That wouldn't be good for users. That wouldn't be good for advertisers. And if that seems pragmatic and cautious, it's because we take this seriously and we want it to be successful. Like, and we're, trying to do what we can to tie these things together too. If we can build in self-serve, a gateway for creators to, flip a switch and then, go from their publisher dashboard or the creator dashboard to serving ads with Brave. Like, that's something we should do. Did we know how successful it would be to run ads for creators? Like, we had some hints because we ran some early tests, but like nothing like what we've done on the case study side this year, like with these publishers, right? Like, and these things take time, and, and I know crypto's a fast game. Like, so, I don't know. I mean, I hope that helps.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Luke.
Yeah. Freaky Theory asks, if we hold BAT or other crypto on the new Brave wallet, is there any plan to learn BAT or interest on it for holding? So we're discussing potential plans for this, particularly maybe like focused on holding BAT first. And then, but we also might be doing a couple of things. Like, the interesting thing about the wallet with the application section of the wallet is there's a DeFi section, and you can see us partnering with DeFi protocols. And, because we have BAT, you could also see us, potentially creating programs with some of these DeFi protocols and other, dApps and NFT marketplaces and things like that, where you could get a deal if you access this through Brave, if you transact on this through Brave, if you list this through Brave, all these other options. I mean, like, as cool as it is for us to roll things our own, sometimes it's better to go with the best players in the market for these things too. And we kind of are taking a case-by-case approach on this stuff. But I hope that helps. Like, yeah, I mean, we loud and clear. Like, also, selfishly, as a personal holder of crypto and DeFi, blood in my veins, like, BAT has support on all these different DeFi protocols. Like, let's do programs with them. Like, let's make it so people can earn more, so people can have unique opportunities. I think, like, there's a lot of really interesting, token programs that are happening now, like even more so than 2 years ago, and I think that, we're learning from those too. And we're looking at those and how those are rolling out. We're testing them out, like, and, testing out other blockchains too. I memean, like, I don't know, like, out of my own frustration, I started to kind of like tinker around with Solana and a couple of others, just because, Gwei is expensive, and, I can't justify spending $100 to do something stupid. Like, so I will try something else out in the meantime, right? So I think that, also, I mean, like, look at what's happened with Doge and with all these other blockchain currencies, and, that have gotten explosive growth. I mean, of course, Brave wants to tap into that. I mean, just for Bitcoin too. Like, the wallet should support Bitcoin. Wallet should support these other tokens and other chains. Like and the ability to wrap BAT, I think, is really interesting too. We started working with Binance Smart Chain earlier this year on some of this stuff. It's interesting to look and see Solana already has a wrap BAT through Wormhole. So I've been playing around with that. I don't have more concrete stuff there, but what I've been playing around has been pretty interesting. And there's a pretty interesting ecosystem there. It's, probably get more decentralized over time, but, there's interesting competition going on right now. And I think like Ethereum's got to play some catch up or, I don't know. This isn't like CryptoKitties where it was just like, a couple days of congestion or one day at the most. This is like getting to be annoying how long it takes to wait for gas prices to go down. So hope that helps. Oh yeah, Drew, we have the POAP coming. So that POAP for badge for the chat will be opening up in an hour and 20 minutes. Code words BAT Brigade. Let's go for that. Oh, Yasin. Yasin, is it Yasin or Yasin?
Hey, Luke.
Hey.
Yes, on that.
Can you hear me? Hello?
Hello.
Hello.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah. I think we got a couple of people talking over each other. So we can do one and then follow up with the next person. Whoever wants to go first.
I can go second. No problem.
You get to go first because you're being overly polite. So let's go for it.
Thank you. Great job, by the way, running this talk. Really appreciate it to sort of understand your perspective and where things are going. My question is, and I already kind of typed it because I wasn't sure if I was going to get called in, but BAT is a project that has privacy as a core value. And I see other blockchains that also have privacy as a core value. They're like a privacy by default blockchains, like the Secret Network. Mm-hmm. So I was wondering if there's any collaboration opportunities between BAT and these types of networks, since they hold privacy as a core value for both.
Yeah, no, it's a great question, and we've been looking into these different options as they've been coming up, and some of us, like the way it's kind of worked in the company too, people from all sorts of different areas in the company, you find out who's the enthusiast, right? Like with crypto pretty fast, because, they start chiming in on some of these blockchain related channels in Slack or other areas and start to kind of drop, alpha as they play around with things. Secret keeps coming up. Secret protocol keeps coming up. I haven't played around with it directly. One of my colleagues has been doing a lot in it and is really excited about it. And our research team and our chief scientist has been looking into a lot of these as well. And I think that, even back to when we did our token sale, like Zuko was one of our advisors, was from Zcash, right? Like, and we actually met with him in June at the Bitcoin conference in Miami and got to catch up. And, so these are areas where, there's kind of like default privacy. In some ways, a lot of what, public blockchains are doing is almost orthogonal to kind of like the privacy requirements in Brave. And, there's a dance there where, part of it's disclosure and making people really know what the differences are. Like, so if you look at like our swap feature, we have disclosures about, what the privacy means around that and et cetera. There's opportunities too. And like, how can we make some of these things more private? And tackle some of these problems, because we have some of the best people in privacy and security working at Brave that are really interested in these topics. And so, these are areas where, it's always a lot of like, usually people do some testing on their own or have some good news to bring or see something interesting. And then we kind of explore. It's also kind of like, sometimes can be like going to like an all you can eat buffet and like, only having 10 minutes to eat and then seeing like all these different things, right? Like there's a lot of interesting things out there, only so many times in the hours in the day too. So part of it's kind of like seeing what the best things are, or, we get a lot of inbound on the BD side from different projects too. And sometimes you can get a sense from, how those conversations go and also like what our research team's digging into, but also like our engineers. it's really across the whole company, right? Like you've got people that are like some of our account managers and salespeople are like super into crypto and like do more DeFi than some engineering folks do, right? Like it's that's part of what's cool about Brave is that you've got people that have these interests in kind of these different walks of life, but they might have a different role within the company, but they might also be doing some pretty cool stuff outside of that too, and they can bring some of that to the company. So yeah, so I hope that helps. Like I don't have anything specific to announce, but you know, like we're close with, you know, Zuko, we're following closely on some of these projects and trying to kind of see where the fit is, and also like, you know, with things like Swap, like we were putting that through review and making sure that like we're not setting up additional exposure, and that we are disclosing what happens there, right? Like these things are all super important. And, you know, if anything, we've become more privacy focused over time than less. So, you know, I think that it's an interesting area to look in, and you know, I don't have anything to announce specifically about it, but it's cool to see those projects too, for what it's worth.
Thanks, Luke, and keep doing the great work.
Keep making great Twitter comments, man. I love it. You bring servicing some cool stuff, and the search feedback too, especially, was really helpful.
Awesome. I'll keep doing it.
Yeah, no please do. I know there was another person that was trying to get a question in too. If you want to jump in now, I didn't see what name it was.
Yeah, that was me, is Drew. I was just going to say, I do have a couple questions, but on the POAP, yeah, we had a little confusion, and the bot got set up for 4 p.m. or I'm sorry, 6 p.m. your time. So it won't open up until like another hour and 15 minutes, but it'll still be there. So just FYI. And then, cool. Yeah, I do have a question, a couple questions. One is on the UGP, like how much is left of that, and what, you know, or what are the plans for that, if you can share any of that. And then also for the new wallet, like what do you think are the reasons, you know, people will use that over, say, like Metamask or something like that?
Oh, it's a great question. Okay, so for the UGP, there is the number remaining on the UBGP reserve address that's on the public blockchain, which is, I don't remember what it is off the top of my head, but you all are savvy and can look that up. There are also UGP that we've had in custodial accounts too. I don't have an exact number. Let me double check on what that might be though, and I can either report back next week on it, or can, you know, bring it to Discord or somewhere where somebody can provide the answer. I don't want to give a wrong number, obviously, for that one. But
you got to give an exact number. But, I mean,
oh no, I mean like it's been going down over time, right? Like, and I think some of the interesting things about these new programs that we might be releasing, you know, or that we're working on releasing, is that, you know, the UGP was kind of known as the UGP from the white paper, right? But these things kind of have a different, you know, you get into the product market fit with this stuff, you know, they might start to serve multi-purposes, right? Like there might be ways that we could flow things into the UGP through certain programs, right? Like, and other things, you know, to kind of bring back in and reutilize it in the ecosystem, things like that, that are pretty interesting too. So, you know, it was kind of made with a very distinct purpose at first. It's done a pretty good job with that purpose. Are there ways that we can make it more of a living thing? Like, and one of the things that we're looking at a lot is, you know, treasury reserves, things like that. Not really public stuff, but, you know, areas of focus, like when we have time to deal with them, you know, more and more. But so that's the UGP question. So the wallet question, really interesting, right? Like there are a couple things here, right? You know, we have a pretty diversified set of revenue streams coming into Brave, which means that, you know, while it's not the only thing that we do, we make revenue out of other things too, which means that we can get pretty interesting with what types of offers, promos, things like that, that we can entice people into. But mainly, I think, you know, let's compare a MetaMask versus Brave, right? Like MetaMask, obviously, like industry leader in wallet extensions. It's still an extension, right? Like Brave is building a native wallet into the browser, a native wallet into desktop and mobile browser, a native wallet into mobile browsers that can connect with DeFi, right? Like those are some pretty interesting things there with native NFT support, right? Like multi-chain support, you know. But the great thing about having a wallet within a browser, which Chrome figured out a long time ago, you can save payment methods and make it super easy to shop online, right? So we can tie rewards incentives to those things. We can build things in there, but having it kind of like having this transactional wallet in the mothership as you're, you know, you might be researching something, you might be studying something or looking at family photos or whatever, and you see an ad and you want to transact, right? Like there's all these opportunities here from the browser level, from the middleware layer, to be able to, like, you know, build in those transactions that you're not going to necessarily have as an extension. You have different types of partnerships and integrations that you can work with the wallet, from everything from content to, e-commerce, etc. That we can focus on. And that's why I'm so stoked about what we're doing with the wallet. Is it just like opens up a whole new range of things, but also, like, we can offer incentives. Like, we have, not only do we have a browser, we also have BAT, right? We could offer, we're talking about discounts, rebates, things like that, ways to, one, get more BAT going back in the ecosystem, but two, get more BAT to people. So these things are areas where, also it has to be a better wallet too. And I think, there are some wallets that are out there that are pretty slick. I think that we can compete with that. I think that there's a mix of wallet and kind of like, OAuth type access, that you can have with crypto and a browser and NFTs. That's like a super neat mix of opportunities there. And with what some people are doing with like liquidity pooling and NFTs and DeFi, in that space too, it's all super interesting, and we can be right in the middle of it. And I think, beyond that, the privacy principles are really pair well with having a wallet. Like, people really care about privacy with their money in a lot of cases. And so, having security and privacy as a primary focus of the company, and then also bringing that to a wallet is important. I mean, breaches, things like that happen, and you want to make sure that you're putting trust into something that is taken seriously by people. So I think all those things kind of sing great songs and make good music about what we're trying to do with this stuff. I think it's kind of our opportunity for the taking, and especially with desktop and mobile, we can do some really cool stuff.
Cool, thanks.
Yeah, of course. There were some questions about mail. So we are taking a look. We're looking at what what's going on in both forwarding and private email. I don't have much more than that to update on now. Acceptable Park, chime in.
Is it working? Can you hear me?
Yes, it is.
All right, great. So you were speaking about Solana earlier, and I was reading through the Themis proposals. And I was wondering if we chose one of the proposals yet from the 10 that we received.
Yeah, let me double check. I know that there were still kind of came down to 2, I think, and let me see. Let me check with Gonzalo, and maybe I can, if not him, Scott next week. Maybe I can see if Gonzalo wants to jump in and kind of give an update on Themis and where we're at with that for you guys. Is that something you guys would want here?
I would want it for sure.
Okay, yeah. Let me see if I can make that happen.
Okay, great.
Yeah,
thank you.
Yeah, I think there's Larry. Was it Larry Lambo and Larry?
Yeah, that's me. So
yeah, cool.
I had a question about the publisher side of the BAT ecosystem. So I have a friend, he's a YouTuber, he's a publisher, he has 50,000 subscribers, and he uses Brave, and we were talking about promoting Brave to his audience, but he kind of didn't like the idea because he thought he would actually lose money, because most of his money comes from YouTube AdSense. So more people using Brave, more people blocking his ads, like less money for him. And then I explained to him the tipping and the auto contribute, but he thinks even with that, he would still lose money. So I made a poll on the subreddit, and it had like 200 people voted, and it was around 15% of people had auto contribute on. So the majority of people are not, redistributing money to publishers, and they're not tipping. So I was wondering, are publishers like really winning in this new like BAT ecosystem?
I mean, I think it's a great question. I mean, and it's something we dealt with a lot with publishers, especially early on. It's something we're still kind of dealing with publishers on now. It's something where too, the Scott Cunningham, I'll bring up the Scott Cunningham example again. Like, I think that, it's not necessarily a binary thing, but it can be, right? Like, if this person were to go out and, pull in his audience out of Chrome into Brave, there would likely be revenue coming their way. From what I've seen with Scott, we've seen it happen. I think people tip where they want to tip, right? Like, and people auto contribute. Some people are more altruistic than others, right? Like, but the tools are there for people to do this. I think the value we could bring, I'd love to kind of sync, like hit me up on Twitter after this too, because I'd like to kind of learn a little bit more about your friend. Maybe there's something we could do with them to kind of do it. Because the thing is that, I can almost guarantee that, this person probably has viewers in Brave right now, and could be growing an audience in Brave right now too. And if there's an opportunity for us to kind of show them what we can do, we would love to kind of have a follow-up with them if it's interesting. I think a lot of publishers were nervous about this. A lot of creators were nervous too, because not so much on the YouTube side, right? Like, it really depends on what type of content, because we saw people getting demonetized for things that were really upset, and they were basically telling us like 30% of my money is coming from advertising now from YouTube, because, one, I'm not safe enough, family safe enough, or brand friendly enough, or whatever, or two, I don't know why like a bunch of my videos aren't getting monetized anymore. And I think, the other thing to think about here too is like, what's the YouTubers following like? I know for sure that if somebody got to the point where they finally were starting to get monetized by YouTube, they might be a little more apprehensive, because it's such a long process now compared to what it used to be. It used to be way easier to start monetizing with YouTube as a creator. Now it's a lot harder. They put a lot more, bars there to climb to get to that, to get to that point where they're even monetizing you. So I could see why there would be some, apprehension around that. I think, again, like, a lot of this comes down to scale, and are we building in things for creators where, creators that are into it can make examples of, and build their audiences, and things that can scale with Brave. And I think that those two things, we've been putting a lot of work into building those things there. I think, there are other areas where we're putting more focus now, because we can get more users out of it initially. We tried this with publishers in the beginning. Like, we tried to get them to bring their audiences, and problem was, even if we had a publisher, like we had a champion that was super into it and could even pull enough strings, it's like, when the crypto stuff got into the room, or they had a legal person that was not cool with it, or accounting didn't know how to deal with crypto, like, there's real problems in real business. It's less of a problem now, in 2021, but back 2017, 2018, especially back then, like, with much fewer users, it just was a different thing. So I think I'm bullish on what we can do with creators, because I've seen them grow in our ecosystem. We have these really strong marketing channels in the browser to help grow their audience. I think it's on us to make that case to the public, and we're working on case studies for this right now, that should help to do that. And that all is like I've said before in other calls, you could see us doing a self-serve beta with creators in the US or something like that, where we could turn around and say, hey, look, like, here's an opportunity to use self-serve as a creator. It's stepping on less toes and commitment around, that we might have already reserved for brands, et cetera. But like, try this out, right? Like I'm very bullish on what we can do with it. I think, as we scale too, it's just going to be more and more proof in the pudding. But 1.2 million creators have verified and are accepting BAT now. That number keeps going up. I don't know. I mean, like, it's not going to be an overnight success thing, but this stuff isn't like that. You build it over time, and then it gets to the point where it's just mega, and that's where we're going.
Great, thank you. And just a small follow-up.
Yeah, of course.
Are you guys thinking of bringing back the referral program for publishers to like help incentivize them to like promote Brave to their audience?
That's a fantastic question, and we are working on that right now, actually, like in earnest, because there's an angle with this where we could potentially do like a rewards referral program where you could go out and kind of, creators could shill a rewards version of Brave where it's opted into automatically, that type of thing. And so it's very clear to the user that they're, getting a version of Brave with rewards enabled. And then automatically they're, utilizing BAT, right? Like, so, yeah, like we said, when we sunsetted the last referral program, which was only supposed to last for 12 months, and it went way longer than that, until it was at the point where it was just, not sustainable. We're going back to the drawing board, and the team's actually engineering and it has it spec'd out already and is going through reviews on this stuff now to get this new program out. And it's something Brendan really wants too. Like, Brendan is very bullish on creators. Like, he wants us to be something. And then the more that we do things like Brave News and Brave Talk and things like this that we're all in right now, like, this is really like, imagine you're deplatformed in some way. Not even that you're controversial, but that there's someone tags you as misleading or having something that's not across established norms, right? Like, you know, these tools are giving you a way to re-platform with your audience and connect with them in a different way. That's very direct, a very, you know, a direct line of communication with those people. And I think that, you know, giving creators some way to earn that through that is key. We're already talking about ways that we can integrate BAT into Brave Talk too. So, you know, these are all things that we really want to do.
Great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. I think it was a Laka. I butcher it every time. Sorry, but I saw that you wanted to say something.
All good. It's Black Locking for the future.
Got it.
Yeah, but I'd say that this is less of a question, more of a proposal. Unlike my proposal for a DAO I sent you a while back, I feel like the community at large should hear this one as well. So, this proposal for utility of BAT. There's been a lot of very vocal ideas about adding some deflationary metrics to BAT or whatever that's, you know, or just for the sake of being deflationary, which I don't think is very viable. But I was thinking for the BAT we get in the browser, would it be possible to create, in a sense, a constriction of supply if it was an option to use the BAT you get in the browser to stake that, say, in a smart contract for an APY reward, but the APY would be in the form of from advertisers. So in a sense, like, you know, you get your 3, 4, 5 BAT a month, and you put that in a smart contract, and then daily you get, like, I mean, it wouldn't be a lot, obviously, you know, your daily peanuts or rupees or whatever, but, you know, you'd get your daily rewards, and that'd be in the form of an ad from an advertiser. That way there's an extra ad campaign, in a sense, or AdSense going, and also it also increases how many ads you can get per day without, you know, going to something like 20, 30 ads per hour or something like that. What do you think about that sort of idea?
I think it's super interesting. Like, I worked on a proposal a while back too around, like, trying to kind of get in a way where we could kind of almost mint NFTs from virtual BAT too, and kind of have an NFT reward scheme or kind of like a pass that you could use there. And it's interesting trade-offs too. And I think that, like, you know, we weren't getting proposals like this a year ago, right? Like, there's a lot of cool things that are possible now that weren't, and we are open to exploring them. I think that it comes down to, a lot of it comes down to, like, you know, resource constraints, right? And in case anyone hasn't looked, we've been shipping a lot of different things, right? Like, and so we're working on kind of, we have some pretty big things that are dropping. Like, well, the Gemini thing was big today. Brave Talk's another big one. You know, kind of getting search out too in a bigger way is super important, right? Like, but you know, as these things roll out and the teams are you know, more singularly focused, right? Like, it opens up more room for this, but also, like, us hiring on additional help to explore some of these avenues, like especially on the community side, especially around some of these proposals around, you know, governance and getting the community more engaged and things like that. Like, we're putting time and focus and effort into that. Like, we've been working with Parker and Guillermo, a couple other folks too, on helping to you know, work with us a little more closely on making these things happen. And yeah, so I think the potential is there. I think the biggest challenges are around, like, okay, can we do this in a way that's privacy preserving? Can we do this in a way that doesn't, you know, give away the user's information? I think we can. I think it requires thought and it requires, you know, some road mapping, but, you know, we're looking at different ways too that we can, like, integrate potentially NFTs with sponsored images, stuff like that, where, or on marketplaces, right? Like, these are all topics we're kind of exploring. Again, like, I hate to be a broken record. Like, if we can get the wallet out, like, you know, we get the wallet out, it's really that base layer that we can kind of build a lot of things on top of. But then you could start to see a lot of actionable things around community proposals and governance, the stuff like that, that we can tie to fast action items in process. But yeah, I hope that helps. It's definitely stuff we're thinking about. You know, I look at what, like, EtherCards has done with, like, forging NFTs. It's like, these are great ways to do it. The main problem is, like, what's the way to do it that doesn't cost an arm and a leg, you know? Like, and there's a lot of competition kind of springing up around, you know, L2s and other chains with NFTs, Tezos and others, et cetera. But, you know, it's an interesting time. Like, I remember when Bitcoin just didn't like anything that wasn't Bitcoin, and now it's like, even if you're super into Ethereum, it's like there are all these competitors now that are doing different, things that hey, now I have time to go tinker with that because I don't want to spend $100 to change my liquidity pool. But yeah, hope that helps.
Yeah, definitely does. I'll also message you on Discord, type it out just in case you forget what the proposal is. But yeah,
cool.
thank you.
Yeah, I'll check back in there too. Sorry, there's like Telegram, Discord, Twitter, email. It's all. I'll try and catch up. If I don't get back to you guys in any particular platform, Twitter, just throw things at me on Twitter. I can get back to you.
All right, cool. Sounds good.
Real quick, EB had a question, feedback around search and maps, and yeah, it's actually literally just came up the day before yesterday too internally about it. There's a lot of work that has to go into like maps with search, but it's something that's of interest. I don't have a timeline, but I can tell you the team's actually actively talking about it now. Like everything that can keep us competitive, right? Like so stuff like a functional utility widgets, at the top of the search results page, or travel or stuff like that, all really hot topics right now. Shopping, right? Like those are super hot things we're talking about right now. And each one of these are also different ways that we can monetize search. So yeah, these are, hot items. All right. How aggressive will the marketing be this year? Like, will my mom be talking to me about Brave? I hope so. You can tell your mom that every TMZ site or every Real Housewives site, I don't know if your mom's into that. I hope it's not an insult if she isn't. Works better in Brave, right? Like, that's one of those things that's awesome. But yeah, like we want to be at that kitchen table discussion about, I saw this ad about Brave, right? Like, and marketing team. And by the way, like we have a marketing team. You don't get to like close to 35 million monthly active users without a marketing team. And I used to do our paid marketing up until we hit like close to 2.5 million. And it's not the easiest thing in the world to do, but we do have a marketing team, and they are hard at work. But yeah, like we're also ramping up that marketing team, like staffing more, looking into CMO. These are all active things that have been going on and are going on. And I'm not going to put days to it specifically, but yeah, I think I've given timetables before. Those are still where we're at. Someone else asked about the 50 million monthly active user target from the roadmap. If we're still on that, until I hear otherwise, we are. And things are looking up, and like we've got some things that are landing soon that should help us get additional attention on that too. So pretty bullish about that. CMO has not been hired yet, but we're still, it is a big priority. It's great to hear people's mothers love Brave. Thank you. Is the wallet multi-chain or just each chain? Great question. It will have multi-chain support. The MVP that we put out, I'm pretty sure you have the ability to add additional networks, but multi-chain support is super important. I know, especially with getting Bitcoin support on there is important, but we're also in discussions with other chains too. It's also like convenient that a bunch of them advertise with us too. So there's obviously like an interest in bringing support in. That's again another awesome thing about the wallet is that we've got a pool of crypto advertisers. Some of them are on different chains, right? Like we got Polkadot, we got Tezos, we got others that have been spending in Brave and seeing good growth through Brave for a long time. And this just opens up new opportunities to re-engage with them on a different topic that could bring in a lot of money. So yeah, pretty excited about that. But it is just about having, operability and like being able to, do things for different people. That not everybody in Brave is going to be a maximalist. I hope not, unless they're a bat maximalist, in which case I love you very much. So get your friends. I'm excited about it too. But yeah, we want to make sure that people can transact across chains. Also, if bat can go across chains too, so it's good for bat. All right. Are there any other questions that people want to ask direct? I'm still floating through the chat.
Hi, Luke.
Hello.
Edmund. Luke, just going back to creators there and the tipping functionality. Is there can you preserve a tipper's privacy and still allow them to perhaps send a message to a creator? Because I suppose I'm specifically thinking about Twitch. You see a Twitch, he's on the screen, someone sends him a tip and they can shout out the person's name. So I would almost envision or think of a YouTuber who has maybe received tips and can then maybe say, oh, whoever, Luke, not even Luke Mulks, but it's the person's fake internet name, like, they could like thank them at the end of the video because they can see the tips they've maybe received from, a pseudonym. Like, but is that something that could be done with tipping? Because and preserve privacy at the same time? Because sometimes I think engagement would be, I don't know if that's been.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. It's a great question. It's a totally great question. It's something that's come up often too. And it's also something we kind of like tried to design in around. So like, the first kind of gesture with this was around like being able to tweet that you tipped somebody, which is cool, but it's not the same thing you're talking about, right? Like the challenge with this has been like, we want to get privacy by default, but we also want people to be able to self-declare tips, right? Like, and this is where kind of it could get really interesting with the idea of like, hey, I'm a Brave creator. I might also be a Brave Talk customer or user, right? Like I might be able to associate my creator handle with a room and have people tip me in that room, have people self-disclose that they're tipping me in that room, right? Like kind of having an auditorium where, we want to make sure that the settings are right at the default, but then, additional options for users to opt into doing more things or like fully exposing who they are, right? Like these are things that if we're covering it on the initial, default setting, cool. If the user elects to do these things, as users do, these are good options, and also can eventually get to a stage where you could have messaging systems built in, stuff like that. But I think that talk would be an area where I think that there could be a really interesting play with that. As one of the reasons why I'm really excited about that shipping too, is that there's a lot like what we're doing here, right? Like imagine that, I say something cool or do a raffle or whatever, and people are tipping, and I can say, hey, thanks for the shout out or whatever. We could do charity drives, stuff like that, like all through Brave Talk. That definitely is something we're talking about pursuing. Like we're already starting to talk with engineers about like, okay, how could we go about this? Like what would be the way to do this that's like efficient and doesn't hurt privacy, like for getting a creator into the room. All this stuff with OnlyFans, right? Like last week or the week before that, and then the reversal or whatever. But like, again, re-platform, right? Like if we had a service where a creator could create their own room and could be a direct connection with people and receive tips directly, like for, teaching a class, for, any number of things, right? Like that would be really cool. And people here could, you could tip me through the chat. Like I could see
that's very interesting. So there is ways you can do it, like potentially create
I think so. Yeah. I think it usually comes down to like order of operations, right? Like, and making sure that we're, okay, you're doing this, you're disclosing who you are, right? Like, and that a user elects to do that, right? Like, so that we're not, going on against our privacy principles, but it's something we're actively looking at.
Cool. Thanks. That's interesting.
Yeah. All right, Lambo Larry.
Yeah, so I had a question about Brave News and the RSS feed. Just to point out like one problem. When I click on show Brave News, Brave automatically has like by default, it has like 40 or 50 like news sites selected. So I have to like manually go through and deselect all the ones I don't want and then click on the ones I want. I would just love a button that just like deselects everything and I could just click the ones I want. And then what are like the improvements you guys are thinking of making for Brave News and the RSS feed? Because I think it's awesome. I would love to have like more customization and more things about it.
No, it's a great questions, right? Like I think, there are a couple of ways about this. I think like, and we're getting a lot of feedback from people that want to be able to that are asking, hey, can this be like how Google News is broken out into sections, right? Like you got like finance, sports, can we do sectional breakouts like that, or customization, right? Like that would be a great one. It would be really cool. I'm not sure like where this is on the roadmap, but it would be very cool if like we are a browser, right? Like you say, hey, look, like customize my feed specifically to my browsing. And some of this may already be there, but like making it less of a manual process, right? Like, so yeah, like I think those optimizations are definitely where we want to go with this. And everybody isn't the same. So, everybody's got different tastes and, having different modes that you could set or presets or whatever. But ideally it would be the coolest track, I think, would be like similar to like how, the ad system works, where it's just like, look, like, what I'm looking at, Brave, like mash me up what I want, in news. And then, I can go in and tinker with it or search for feeds or whatever. But I think it'd be cool to also be able to add social feeds and stuff like that to Brave News. But where we're seeing a lot of, I've been looking at this stuff super closely because we just launched, promoted content. Brave News ads just launched like a week ago or 2 weeks ago. But we've been doing really extensive testing over the past 2 weeks, and when people use it, they really use it. And there's a lot of positive feedback, but a lot of engagement too. We're seeing really positive the P3A analytics stuff coming around. People are spending time in it, and the ads. It's just like it's a whole different way for us to serve ads because you've got this infinite scroll, and normally we're trying to kind of like make it so that users aren't seeing too many ads, and it's annoying. But when you're in a scroll, it's like, oh no, person's going to see a lot more ads in that scroll. So yeah, like we're looking at different ways you could optimize that. I think another area that seems really interesting, over time too, is like more multimedia. And we're talking about that on the advertising side too, is like bringing in more interactive ads or video ads or things like that into news. News is kind of a good starting point for that, but we're looking at other areas too. But yeah, news is like, it's been a big hit with people, and it's a really sticky feature. It's a feature that people use a lot, and we don't even have it on all operating systems yet. I'm really stoked to see what happens when it goes out on Android, because that's like over 40% of our audience is on Android, so it's like could be really, really great. So news. It was a bit of a risk. We did it. It's seeing really positive feedback results so far. Now we're starting to monetize it. It's looking good. So we're just gonna keep iterating from there. Hope that helps.
Yeah, that's really cool. And talking about having like social media posts like in the Brave News, I would love that because like there are a few Twitter accounts and Instagram accounts I follow, and literally just for their crypto posts. And I would love to just take a few of those and put it in Brave News and just scroll and see crypto headlines and then see like crypto posts on social media as well. So that'd be great.
I would love it. It would be like kind of almost like a tweet deck, right? Like, but you could have your different social feeds kind of integrate too. So where like maybe if certain posts that would be on your timeline hit a threshold, you start to see them in news or something like that. Like that could be super cool. These are things that are still like kind of early stage because obviously we want to get news everywhere first, and then kind of get table stakes down. But yeah, the potential is there for some really cool things with news. So yeah, stay tuned on that.
Yeah, thank you so much. Super cool.
Yeah, of course. And will Android be getting playlist? Yes, it will be getting playlist. That's another one where Brennan too was like super into playlist and was really pushing on that one. Yeah, I don't have a timeline, but I know that it's of high interest. So I can check with the Android developers and get back to you next week on that one. Have we discussed the goggles concept yet? The team certainly has. Let me put that on as an item to get somebody else from the team on to talk about too, because even myself, I'm a little fuzzy on specifically how it'll work. But it is an interesting one. Can I do online shopping, e-commerce in the future? Amazon. Yeah, we're looking at e-commerce. That was Freaky Theory asked about that one. We're looking at ways that we can integrate, tighter e-commerce, including, BAT options for that. So stay tuned on that one too. All right. Anybody have any, or is it Lambo Larry? You have another question?
Oh, no, I don't.
Okay, cool. No worries. All right. What do we mean by goggles? Oh, it was a part of the Brave Search concept that the search team had. I think we're actually going to post a blog about it. It won't be referred to as goggles anymore. They have a new name for it, but I'm not going to butcher that name and off the top of my head. All All right. Are there any questions? If there are questions in the chat that I missed that anybody wants to shout about, please shout about them now because I'm scrolling through here. But a ton of missed questions. Okay. Well, what are the missed questions? Give me one of the missed questions. I will answer it. Desktop VPN coming out. Team is working on that. I think Q3, Q4 this year. I can get a more specific date. We're looking at putting it on all operating systems too. Any work being done to get Brave earning back on iOS? Is that a lost cause for us? It's not a lost cause, but it's something that Apple needs to hear from the market about at this point. So we kind of exhausted routes with them on the policy side. So yeah, if you want to get rewards, earnings back on iOS, let Apple know. What other questions did I miss here? What if I gave the person tipping the option to send a message with their tip and it showed up on the creator's dashboard and they could read all the messages and says you with each tip? That's a great question. That's something that we could look into doing. I think that kind of ties into what we were talking about with talk earlier too. How close is Brave to profitability? I don't have a number I can put publicly out there around that right now, but it's within sights. That's as far as I can get around it. That's like, not public information at this time. Are my bullish on pub ads? Yep. As soon as we get the users for the economics to work out great, I'm very bullish on pub ads. I'm very bullish on introducing a whole new array of options for publishers that they might just be hearing about now. NFTs, ways to use BAT, etc. Like I said before, it's got to be something where they are in pain not to talk to us, right? Like we have so many users where they have to, it forces the function. There'll always be some publishers, creators that want to work with us and we're happy to work with them. But, it's a tough thing for their publishers right now. What do you think for Brave and BAT future? I think many good things for Brave and BAT future. When $40 BAT, I don't know. I'm not going to speculate on that. Like as soon as possible. It seems like there's a content creators like Ben Shapiro, Joe Rogan, internet historian that are shilling privacy preservation. Yeah, I mean, like Joe Rogan was talking about Brave Search a while ago. He mentioned it because Google. I think he had Abby Martin on, and he mentioned Brave Search. They're actually ahead of DuckDuckGo. So the more than we're talking about it, I'm actually working on kind of maybe doing an Austin tour to kind of talk with some of these independent media and podcasters and things like that about Brave and getting them involved. So stay tuned for that. It's something I really want to put some time into. There's a whole movement going on there that's super interesting right now. It's not necessarily the newest thing, but sprung up over COVID. And I feel like there's a lot of incentives aligned between independent media creators, whether it's comedians, podcasters, etc., or even news like what's his name, Crystal and Sager, the Breaking Points, right? Like broke off from the Hill or doing independent media. Like there's a play there. There's plays everywhere, with independent media, and I think Austin seems like an interesting hub for that's emerging. So. Not dark web. Well, we got dark web with Tor too, in the browser. So covering all bases. I think these things are great for how much will the company I would see us working, engaging, getting these options out there. Endorsing SQL publishers is a different game, but take it as we go, case by case. But I mean, shit, I like diversity of opinions are great. Like you can't just ban everybody you don't agree with. All right. Now we have Gemini integration. Are there any other exchange partnerships in the works? Yes, there are. There are exchange partnerships that are being discussed. DeFi protocols we are in discussions with too around the wallet. Super bullish about that. And NFT partners too, marketplaces, etc. We started doing those conversations about November, October last year. We picked some of them up. We rekindled some of the old discussions, and we're not going forward. But really, I mean, come on, like Gwei's got to go down for us to really do this in a realistic way. But it'll get there. It'll get there. So yeah, hope that helps. What's the risk of Uphold and Gemini effectively being able to censor to monetize Brave creators they don't like? Well, Brave creators is a policy that the creator goes through with Brave. The tipping exchange flows on the back end or back end processing, but we don't. Everybody's kind of blinded to who does what, right? So right now, if you look at, the Winklevoss brothers, and I don't know, Uphold has never shown any interest in censoring anybody, and I think the crypto ethos with Gemini is solid to where I would not be concerned about that at all. And Brave doesn't want to get in between unless people are promoting violence and things like that are obviously areas where you want to have some governance, but we're not talking about labeling journalists or anything like that here. On gas fees, is BAT going to utilize any scaling solutions like Arbitrum? I've been looking at Arbitrum. Others have too. We've been looking at a bunch of these. Like part of Themis was that, but some of these like Arbitrum wasn't really. These are becoming more and more developed. We're looking at them for sure. And this is something that's coming up a lot on the wallet side. You want to have a diversity of options in there. I want to know, like ideally, right? Okay, I'm going to make a swap, right? Is there a cross-chain swap I can make and get a better deal? Let's surface that to the user. Let's give the user maximum value, right? So these are things we want to be able to deliver. We're in a position to deliver, right? So like I said before, too, the first iteration of the wallet will not have every single bell and whistle, but that's where it's really important to let us know what you really want, especially when we release the MVP, because that's where we'll be counting feedback. We're doing it now, but really, 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 when people are out there touching this is when, just like with search, just like with everything else, let us know what you want, and we'll respond and react to that too. But I can see, obviously Bitcoin's one that we want to support too. Any other question? Roughly what % of U.S. campaigns are participating in case studies? It's a small percent now. I think I'd say less than 10%, maybe 5 to 7% are participating in case study, and others are using. One thing we offer a lot are, pre-post testing for sponsored images and campaigns where, we can prove brand lift and brand recall through the surveys that people see in the browser, those types of things. If we see success with those convert to case studies. We were working with, the sales team I was working with RGA a while back on some case studies on their big agency. Sales team was also working with, Magna, a bunch of other agencies, Dentsu, et cetera, on case studies as well. Because, as Brave grows, we become an important marketing channel for them. And there are some of those on the website too, white papers that are out too. I encourage everybody to take a look at brave.com. At the advertiser section, there's some case studies there in case anyone wants to look at that. NFT tab in the wallet. Option to click on it and tweet to show everyone how cool you are for owning an NFT. I think that's cool. That could be, I'll take that feedback back. I think there's a whole thing around NFTs that could be super interesting, right? And this is something we started exploring earlier when drops were getting to be popular. Is this look, we have an opportunity to message people hey, if I want to follow, maybe X, Y, and Z marketplace, let me subscribe to drop updates from those and then get them fed to me through the browser, right? I want to have first mover advantage, right? On the next drop. And some of these things get hot and cold with NFTs, but right now we're in a hot point with NFTs. So I think, keep bringing us ideas and we can work on integrating them. Does the Brave office have a BAT ticker with the price displayed anywhere? That's a great question. We just moved offices, so I don't think we do. We at the old office we didn't, but a lot of us had it up on our screens. If that helps, it always comes back to does the BAT team does the Brave team care about the BAT price? And I care about it. Other people definitely do too. It would be dumb not to care about it. We have come a long way since Rocket Chat. That's OG in the house. I remember that. It was a parody hack. Holy shit. Okay. Okay. What is your favorite number and when BAT? I think 40 is a good number to start with. And for when, I'm not going to speculate on when, but future is bright and the growth is good. you'll get burnt out by weekly checks. No way, man. I love this. Let's keep them going. I think every time we do these too, like I hear more cool things, and I go back to the team after these, and I give a update on, hey, Brave Talk worked really well, or people had ideas for these features, right? Like, and I shared a bunch of those back. But this is feedback we take back to the team, and there's probably some folks from the team sitting in on this too. But I did not say end of year on $40, but somebody else did, and somebody said that they heard it here. So it'd be cool to have Edward Snowden do a call on Brave Talk. He liked one of the tweets I did from him last week, which was cool. It's been cool to see him talking up about this Apple stuff. Interesting. That's my own personal opinion, but yeah. Lambo Larry got another question.
Yeah, I got another one if that's okay.
Yeah, bring it on.
Yeah, so Brave is working like on a lot of things. There's like the RSS feed, there's a BAT token, self-serve ads. There's like a ton of things you're working on. Just to get some clarity, can you just like, what are like the top 2 or 3 things that like you're spending like the most resources on right now? Like, what are the biggest things you're focusing on?
Yeah. And some of these have like dedicated teams, right? So it's not like we have like, the same 4 people work on everything, right? Like search has a team that we brought over when we, brought Tailcat on, but we've grown that team too. And then, there are a core group of engineers that help to, plug these things into the browser, but brass tacks, right? Brave Talk, Brave Search, those are 2 big things that we are doing. The VPN crossover, like in that order, I would look at those items as release items in that order. And then, how do we get back in those things, right? Like some of them, like search, might take a little bit longer than others, but we're seeing interesting stuff with search. People are using Brave Search outside of Brave. It's not a huge percentage, but it's an interesting percentage, like that are getting familiar with Brave Search experience outside of the Brave browser. So these things are starting to happen. Brave Talk will probably be the next big thing we drop. And then, or the wallet too. That's the other thing. Yeah, so wallet ties into all this stuff because you got to buy some of these things, right? So and then some of these will have paid options. Some of them will have free options, etc.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah. Does Brave Search have a download Brave browser button like Google had for Chrome? I believe they do outside of Brave. Yeah, and I believe there's also a message that says, hey, for a better experience with Brave Search, experience it in Brave, because there are things like what's it called, the Google backfill and or the backfilling results feature, things like that are engineered in Brave that aren't functional outside of Brave. So get a better knack there. But yeah, like for people that aren't using Brave, other thing too, like with Brave Talk, right? Like I get invited, I might be a Chrome user, I get invited to Brave Talk, and wonder what Brave Talk is. We'll put a link to download Brave from Brave Talk right there. These are all growth hack moves. What do I mean by that? I mean, yeah, this is pretty good right now, right? There's not just this, there's also payment flows, right? Like we want to have an option for a user to be able to use for one-on-one calls with rewards if they opt into that. That requires scope of work. Having a paid feature requires scope of work. Having the ability for anybody to just jump in has a different scope of work. So getting the payment piece done was a big hurdle for the team that they spent a lot of the summer working on. That part's pretty close. Right now we're doing beta testing. This is part of it. And then, we're really close on Brave Talk, like closer than people might think. So that's the next big one. I think the wallets probably after that, maybe search after that. So hope that helps. Can we still hit 50 million monthly active users by the end of the year? I think so, if we really work hard to do it. And yeah, I think marketing team's working hard on doing that. For Brave Search to Bowsex, any chance for image searches to have the feature for related images added? That's a great question. Let me double check on the team on that. I know it's come up before. I'm not sure what the answer was from the search team, but I can find out. How many people have switched to Brave Search since its full release? I don't have the search stats. I will get them though for the next call. That way we can talk about them. All right. Any other questions? People switched. Ike's COVID mask. What other questions am I not answering? How do the MAU stats look for August? We'll let you know next week. Seem like any bugs in your crypto wallet would be high risk. Will you feel confident, safe using DeFi when it first comes out? Well, I've been guinea pigging DeFi with it and on our current crypto wallet. And I will feel safe. Yeah. Like when it comes out, and these things are tested and et cetera. Like, everyone drives at their own risk, but we're not going to scale it with something risky. So, yeah. Sports card would be awesome. That's one that comes up with search. That's a great question. Sports cards, things like airport times, travel flight info, all those good things that were brought there were pretty cool. Any plan for image creator for tipping bad for copyright free image options? It's a great question. I don't know. Let me find out. What's my favorite video game? Oh, it's a good question. I used to play Call of Duty a lot. I don't play them as much anymore because I have 2 kids and yeah, I work all the time. So sorry. Twitter is kind of like my video game. Are people clicking on too many ads? There's a common misconception that you need to click to get back. That's a great question. How about sending a reminder if someone clicks over a threshold of times that they don't have to? So I think like one is like, messaging and onboarding, different variations of that we're testing now around this. I think, we've mentioned that you earn from viewing, and we could probably be a little louder about that. I think the click-through rate steady stating out pretty well. And so, I don't know. There's also a curiosity that people have when they see ads in Brave. We're advertising things in Brave that they might not see advertised elsewhere. So I think that with a lot of our advertisers, I think roughly 68% of our advertisers right now are crypto companies. So there's a lot of curiosity in crypto companies. So you might get additional clicks through there. They're also, making sure we're flagging out suspect clicks, stuff like that. So, but yeah, I hear you though on the messaging. It's something our sales team brings up too. And I just know from back in the day too, when we would go talk to advertisers, when we were going to market, it was like a bit of a concern. That's why we also said we don't reward based on clicks because, we don't want to skew performance in that direction. Sunrise fan saying neither look or feel good, but Brave has been proving this. Hey, appreciate it. Good. You had Sunrise fan. Thank you. With the amount of crypto advertisers being so high, is there any worry that demand for ads would drop off heavily in a bear market? Actually, that's a really great question. And the funny thing we actually found out is that, we actually get more interest from crypto advertisers, like the bigger ones, especially during a bear market than during the bull market. Because when there's a bull market, a lot of the big name crypto brands, they get natural organic traffic from, friends and family, barbers, everybody telling them about crypto. And then when the bear markets happen, that's when they usually typically, release new build features and things like that they want to get more discovery out in the market with. So, we actually see the opposite happening with the big crypto advertisers. In a bull market, though, what we do see a lot more are of upstarts and, mid-range companies in the crypto sector that want to advertise because they're having to compete against the organic noise. So it's interesting because the market's a lot more diverse now than it used to be. And a lot of the big names like, Coinbase, et cetera, they actually are going to big agencies in New York now around the advertising to try and get into more, mainstream audiences. So you start to see different patterns emerging, but it's a great question. How are Brave News ads performing until Gamer Day specifically? So far, so good. Like I said earlier, we're 2 weeks in, and that first week you're knocking out a lot of bugs. But so far, so good. I think that we have a healthy stream of inventory coming from there that is really interesting. And I think that it's providing some different options for advertisers too that we're hearing feedback from sales on. Yeah, so far, so good. I think it really is. It'll be neat to a foundation to build on, and it'll be neat to see as we get. The problem right now is that we're running maybe like 5 or 6 different brands in there, but we have a team in Japan that's running Japanese advertisers too. They're doing much more on the content side. They're advertising content through Brave News ads in Japan. Here we're doing more brand advertising, but it'd be interesting to see how these how the performance goes out over time. I think click-through rates initially were a lot lower on Brave News, partially because you have people that it's kind of like a luxury scroll situation, and people are, more accustomed to not clicking as much on a scroll because there's more options. But yeah, I think with time it'll get better. Some weird noise going on, but okay. Earlier this year, late last year, I saw somebody post a Nike sponsored image ad for their new shoe, but never saw it myself or heard anyone was using it. Was that a limited test run or something? I think that was a regional ad buy. I think that was made in Japan. About 99% sure that it was a Nike sponsored image in Japan. So that's why you probably didn't see it unless you were in Japan, which is something that happens often. Like we ran some Toyota ads in Germany only. I think we had a BMW campaign that ran in Australia. Each of these big companies has different regional, companies that have their own marketing spend. So yeah, that's probably why. Luke, I disconnected my Uphold wallet and linked my Gemini wallet, yet I can't tip anyone because it said the creator hasn't verified their account. Will this be fixed? Yeah, I can have Chris talk to us too. I'll have Chris join us on one of these things and kind of lay out the plan for, cross custodial options and tipping like that. But definitely hear you, and it's definitely something that we're doing. The other thing we're also offering for creators the ability to, verify with multiple partners if they want to do that. I know it's a hassle, but we also know that like a lot of users and creators have been telling us, hey, we want to have more options here. So, in the intermediate, we might see creators that are hopping from one or doing more, verifying with more than one. But let me get Chris in front of you guys to give you kind of a lay of the land on the cross custodial plan, because he's got a better sense of the details on that. Maybe next week or the week after. I'll try and get him on next week. Chris is awesome. But this is a great question from Batter. How are you guys able to keep the visual quality of sponsored image tabs so high across advertisers? Do you guys ever make them yourself for them? So this is like super interesting. I'm surprised it hasn't come up yet. Let me just kind of spend a minute on it. So yeah, like this, the sponsored image unit is not like, it's not like a takeover that you see on like a publisher website where, the advertiser just sends all the creative and it's just run how it is. We have like our design team has a set of specifications and guidelines that they provide the advertiser around sponsored images. We even have like tools that they can use to mock them up, etc. But every sponsored image that runs in Brave has to go through approval that goes through our design team. And it used to be our head of design or VP of design and product design guy, Brad Richter, awesome dude, was OG. He was here before I even got here. He would go through them at first, and he has more team members working on that. But yeah, it's a very high touch thing. And, we have like lead time requirements on it, and this I'm really familiar with because my team traffics all of these. It's just like, every sponsor, it's a special unit. It costs more money to run. We only run one brand at a time in there per country. It's really important. That was really important for the team that we have a unit that it's effective for brands, but also kind of mixes in with the feel of the other images too. So yeah, so that's why you get the feel, is because there's a level of care that goes into that unit that isn't into other advertising, so to speak. They are very good. They are very, very good. Yeah, and some of those actually, like some of the big brands that have advertised with us on sponsored images actually asked if they could use the images for other parts of their advertising campaign after our part with them was done too. So anyway, hope that was helpful. Croc sponsored images were the best. Those were pretty good. Yeah, I like those. The Canada Dry ones were pretty cool too. There's a lot of neat ones. I think I'd love to see us do some kind of animated ones too, like over time. I think you start seeing that, and possibly some options for adding NFT art in there too. We've been talking with Guillermo about that, and some of the folks on the account management and sales team too. Cool. Any other questions? Will sponsored images be in self-serve too? No, they won't. Not at first. Mainly because, like I said before, it's a special unit. I'm not going to say, I would say with high confidence that not for a long time. Just because of the unit. If that unit changes, maybe. But here's the thing to think about with sponsored images. It is a unit that we show to everybody, whether they are opted into rewards or not. So it's a different level of care that you have to have. Like if a user is signed up for rewards, they're more happy with commercial advertising. They want to be in a system that includes them in that, right? Like, and the hook for showing it to everybody is that we can say, hey, look, your attention has value. You can earn from that with rewards, get you in on that. But yeah, like doing that through self-serve wouldn't be feasible. Like there's too much risk. You know, it's such a high exposure unit that you don't want to run the risk of people putting things in there that would be overly controversial or alienate half your audience. So no, I don't think we would be doing that anytime in the near future on self-serve. Will rewards ever be on by default with new installs of Brave? So that I mentioned this earlier, like see like kind of a referral program that might be centered around rewards, where rewards could be opted into. The user goes through, you know, the process when they download it, knowing that it's a rewards version. That's highly likely. Yeah. Okay. Cool. What other questions have we? Or will you be able to partner with companies like GoPuff or Target or Wikipedia or Substack or Amazon or Pornhub? Be able to use BAT as a purchasing currency. I would love for any of those to use BAT as a purchasing currency. Yeah, I think there's stuff like that on the horizon, potentially, whether it's us doing SKUs or integrating with other crypto commerce. I think there's somebody posted on Twitter. They were they earned BAT from coffee purchases through a extension that was in WooCommerce that had crypto payments into it. And I'm not remembering what the name was, but it was super cool. And I love seeing stuff like that. And we should be doing more like that. So yeah. Will Brave move from notification ads to publisher ads in the future? Brave will have both publisher ads and notification ads in the future. I think look at this as a, you know, it's building different rooms in a house. You know, each one of these units has a different value in the marketing funnel. So, you know, you can have like, you know, mid funnel and news. You can have, you know, high impact sponsored images. You can have really granular stuff that's, you know, through notifications, and you can have contextually relevant stuff in publisher ads. So yeah, all the above. Yeah. All right, cool. I don't know if there are, what's a publisher ad again? Those are publisher opts in to Brave ads for their site. We would place a Brave ad on their site. That could be an ad that they traffic through our system, or that could be them just clicking a box and saying, hey, yeah, I'm fine with the ad catalog, the advertisers in Brave's ad catalog to serve to my site. And then publishers receive 70% rev share, users receive 15, Brave receives 15. So that's a publisher ad in a nutshell. Display ads in a page that a publisher opts into, because we don't want to get into this game where, you know, other parties are playing it where, you know, you pay to play, other things like that. We want to make sure the publisher's getting a good deal. 70% is a good deal. All right. What sort of volume of BAT goes through tipping? 10K a month, 100K, any sort of estimate or insight on that? I can get something like that for the next call. But I don't want to even, off the top of my head, I don't remember what it is off the top of my head, but I will have that answer for the next call. One last question. It's up a few messages. Okay. Yeah, so I'll bring you an answer on the next call. I don't have it off the top of my head. Cool. Any other questions? Come on, guys. Let's just stand up every week. You guys got me for some time. I will give you answers. I will fall down when this is over. Yep, same time next week. I hope Ike's COVID mask will be here to point out when I don't answer questions. I hope all of you will be here. But yeah, thanks all. Unless everybody has, oh, here we go. Could there be ad packs for creators to appear on the homepage? Yes, there could be. I think that's something we could do. We'll give you some updates on that on the next one. But building advertising with creators is super important, right? Like anytime we can, like Patreon's doing cool stuff for creators, but like Patreon doesn't have these great tools that we have, right? Like, so, you know, we can add value by bringing these benefits that we have with Brave to creators, in addition to having, you know, tokens and tipping and all that good stuff for them too. All right, y'all. Oh yeah, one more question. Yep. Let's do it. Okay, playlist. Got a whole room here hanging on this last question. Okay, would it be possible to insert opt-in video ads in that? Potentially. I think, well, playlist has only been on iOS so far. We're working to get it on Android too. So you could have things like, you know, CarPlay through it. I think advertising is interesting for that. It's right now the focus is getting playlists in there. It's just like the other stuff. Like, and there's concerns around like, oh, it doesn't ship with BAT automatically. It doesn't mean we don't care about it. It means that, you know, these things are a lot to get out the door initially, and then you want to kind of see where the ideas come from that, you know. So yeah. All right, y'all. Well, this was awesome. I will be around this time next week. And thank you all for showing up. Everybody that helps to make this possible, gets the word out. Everybody recording, thank you so much. And I'm looking forward to talking to y'all next week. Have a good one.